is going to be about the White House Farm massacre or murders, also known as the Bamber murders. So again, I don't mean any offense to anyone that's in this video or anyone that is involved in this murder. The way I am telling it, I'm just trying to present the facts. I am just telling it so you can get the greatest understanding of who was convicted, why people thought another person done it, but I will let you decide. Tell me in the comments who you think actually done it or what you think about the case. But anyway, let's begin. Hope you enjoy. Make sure you subscribe, like, and suggest other crimes that you want me to cover or conspiracy theories. And also make sure you tell me how I do. Who was the Bamber family? Neville and June Bamber, both 61, had adopted Jeremy and Shelia after they were unable to have children of their own. There was the 18-year-old daughter of Eric J., the senior chaplain to the Archbishop of Canterbury. Jeremy was the result of an affair, his birth parents later marrying and having 2 more children. They worked at Buckingham Palace. Both Jeremy and Shelia attended the local primary school before being sent away to boarding school. One of Jeremy's friends claimed he was sexually abused while at boarding school, which could have had a really big impact on him. Jeremy was really unhappy with his low wages whilst working on his father's farm, despite given a free home to live in and a free car to drive. It later came out that he could be very cruel to animals, especially small ones. He used to take great delight in throwing stones at chickens and baby chicks and hitting the farm animals with sticks. Shelia was into her modeling. For a short time, she worked as a fashion model where she spent 2 months in Tokyo with an agency. She had a rocky relationship with her mother. She had an abortion when she was 17 and sadly multiple miscarriages. The relationship with her mother got worse as June caught her sunbathing naked in a field. June apparently called her the devil's child. Shelia had a history of mental health issues that included violent outbursts and banging her head against walls. In 1983, Shelia was referred to a psychiatrist by her family. She was described as being in an agitated state, paranoid, and psychotic. One doctor claimed Shelia had been taken over by the devil and could make her sons violent. Shelia spent some time in hospital and still took antipsychotic drugs when she was discharged. But then she was readmitted in 1985, 5 months before the murders happened. Shelia married Colin Caffel. She had her twin boys, Daniel and Nicholas, in June 1979. After becoming a mom, Shelia stopped modeling and found work as a cleaner and waitress. Her marriage between Colin broke down not long after. There was reports that he had an affair which led to their divorce. Following her divorce, the mom of 2 became involved with a new friendship group where she was given the name Bambi and became involved with partying, drugs, and older men. The murders took place on the 6th to 7th of August in the middle of the night. The murders happened in the White House Farm, which was the farmhouse they lived in rural Essex. Police were first alerted that something tragic had happened at the family home from a call from Jeremy Bamber himself in the early hours of 7th of August 1985. He told the police officers that he received a desperate call from his father, who told him, "Your sister's gone crazy and she's got a gun." The line had gone dead after the sound of a shot, he told officers. The scene that greeted armed police who attended the property was absolutely horrid. Neville, 61, had been beaten and shot 8 times, 4 times in the head, in his own kitchen, while his wife, June, also 61, was found to have 7 bullets riddled through her body in the master bedroom. One was right between her eyes, fired at point-blank range. Blood was smeared across the floor and covering the carpets, which suggested she had made an attempt to drag herself away from the killer. The children had both been killed in bed where they slept. Daniel still had his thumb in his mouth. Reports say blood was everywhere. Shelia was found with gunshot wounds underneath her neck and chin, with the Bible leaning against her arm and the rifle on her body pointing towards her. Apparently, Shelia left a note within the Bible with the words, "Love one another," from John chapter 13. However, the Essex police cannot confirm if the note was actually real or if it had been destroyed. Everybody thought it was Sheila's fault. The media painted Shelia as a deranged divorce who hated her parents, used drugs, and was living in fear of losing her children. It would take 4 weeks for the real truth to come out. Thought I would just quickly play you this news clip. Again, they're blaming Shelia because that's what everyone thought.
3 of the victims of the mass shooting at the Essex farmhouse were buried today. Farmer Mr. Neville Bamber and his wife June were shot by their daughter Shelia, a London model, who also killed her 6-year-old twin sons before committing suicide.
Police said they had all died together from gunshot wounds. In Sheila's case, her death had been self-inflicted.
This is the funeral footage. However, there is flashing footage because it's old, so just be warned. The town that they lived in was quite small. Only over 800 people lived there. And as Mr. Bamber was a farmer, he was quite well known. This funeral footage is very iconic. As you can see, the grief-stricken Jeremy Bamber. However, this footage was later reviewed. As yes, he appears to be very grief-stricken and he can't handle any of it. He's the one that pushed the funeral forward, cremating the bodies, which was a massive letdown in the case. When you review the footage, you can tell that he's not actually crying. These are known as crocodile tears when you show fake grief. When the cameras stopped rolling, it was said that Jeremy Bamber said dirty and sexual jokes to different women to try and flirt, even though his girlfriend was there. In this footage, you can see he's basically covering his face, so you can't even see if he's crying. So now that the bodies are cremated, they were literally working with no bodies. The police are heavily to blame in this case. The police were so convinced that Shelia was the killer that the evidence was destroyed just days after the murders. The crime scene was not secured properly or searched properly, and some evidence was not recorded. The bloodstained bedding and carpets were burnt, so that it was not to upset Jeremy if he saw. And one of the biggest mistakes was the treatment of the gun. The rifle was removed several times by an officer who was not wearing any gloves. It was not examined for fingerprints until weeks later. Photos from the crime scene also showed the gun in multiple locations when nothing should have been touched. A silencer in the house was not found by the police, but rather by family members who were in the house days later. Several pieces of evidence, such as the Bible found with Shelia, was never examined or was said to be destroyed. Jeremy Bamber's clothes were not examined until months after the murders, and officers who dealt with interviewing Jeremy Bamber wrote their statements weeks later. Back to the silencer. This had traces of Caffel's blood on it, and the experts agreed she could have not placed it back in the cupboard after shooting herself. It cast doubts that she was actually the killer. Also, no traces of gun oil were found on her nightdress. Apparently, the height of Shelia and the gun just didn't add up. It would have been impossible for her to shoot herself as the gun was too tall. Bamber's behavior again came under scrutiny some weeks later, whilst he contacted the Sun newspaper hoping to sell topless modeling shots of his dead sister. The newspaper declined and instead ran a story about what he tried to do. It was only a month later when Mugford, the now ex-girlfriend of Jeremy Bamber, who accompanied him at the funeral, got in touch with the police. She had told officers he had previously spoken about killing his family to inherit the massive amount of money and the farm estate. On the night of the crime itself, she said he had called to say, "It's tonight or never," around 3 a.m. He phoned her again and said, "Something is wrong at the farm. I haven't had any sleep all night." However, she also told police that Jeremy had not committed the murders himself but hired a hitman to do so. Mugford said that Jeremy had it all planned to look like Shelia had killed them all. He told police that Mugford had made it all up because he was wanting to end their relationship. The person she had claimed Bamber had hired had a solid alibi and was released without charge. Bamber too was released and went on holiday with his friend. However, upon his return, he was arrested at Dover and charged with the murders. So how was Jeremy Bamber a victim to a villain? Shelia was shot twice in the neck. If she committed suicide, it would have been very, very hard for her to shoot herself twice. They also argued that Shelia would have not been capable of overpowering her 6-foot father, and it was obvious that a struggle happened downstairs. There was also a lack of physical evidence on Shelia to suggest she had killed her family. Her body and clothing did not suggest that she had moved around the crime scene, and there was not enough lead on her hands to say that she had fired all of the shots. Jeremy Bamber was found guilty of murder of his family in October 1986 and sentenced to 5 life sentences. So I'm going to leave tons of links in the caption below, but there is also an overwhelming amount of evidence as well that Jeremy Bamber could be innocent. I'll leave those links below as well, and here is a TV program that you should definitely check out. The actors look identical to the real people involved, and it was such an amazing show.